What up, YouTube? What up? It's your boy, Quinn Wallace, back with another video. And in today's episode, we're gonna be doing some soldering to the Xbox 360 for the purpose of modifying the console so we can run unsigned code and play games for free. Unlimited power. So the first thing you gotta do is get an Xbox. They're super cheap and they're everywhere. The second thing you gotta do is you need a Raspberry Pi Pico. And they're $8 on Amazon. It's that little thing in the background, the foreground. It's in the front of the frame. It looks like it's got a raspberry on it and a USB. So you're gonna need those two things and equipment to solder. So you'll need a soldering iron and flux and everything else. Solder and Q-tips to help you clean. Isopropyl alcohol to help you clean the motherboard. So yeah, let's get the Xbox out of here. And let's focus on the Raspberry Pi Pico. A microcontroller. It's pretty much just a computer, just a very small, not very powerful computer. But it works for modifying the Xbox 360. So what you're gonna do is heat up some solder and put it onto those little points there. There's a bunch of points around the Pico. And you just want to put a bunch of solder on those bottom right 7 points. And that's because we're going to connect wires to those points later. Yeah, I was saying we're going to connect wires to those points later in order to program our NAND. What's a NAND, you may be asking? Well, it's the microchip inside of the Xbox 360 that holds things like the operating system itself, which is called the kernel for some reason. It holds the bootloaders, so the thing that turns on the Xbox. Very essential stuff like that. And the reason it's called NAND is because that stands for not and, which is a type of logic that the computer uses. And you can practice this logic yourself. Go to YouTube, type in what you want to search for, and if you want to exclude something, you can push not. So if you want to search for pillowcases, not silk, then you'll get results for pillowcases that are not silk. And you can also use and. So if you want to search for pillowcases and bed sheets, then you'll get results for both of those things at the same time. So it's called Boolean logic. Well, I think it is. It's a type of logic that computers use all the time. So there's a NAND chip inside the Xbox that holds the operating system, essentially like Windows or comparable, and the bootloaders and other things. So what we're gonna do is solder this Raspberry Pi Pico to the NAND, and then we're going to write our own NAND onto the Xbox that has our own operating system and our own bootloaders. That way we can have our own operating system and operate the console in the way we want to, as opposed to the way that Microsoft wanted us to. And we do that by first getting our Raspberry Pi Pico and our soldering iron and some solder and just tinning those points. You just make them shiny. You just have bubbles of solder on those bottom 7 points. And then you get your skinny little wires and you strip the ends of them so you have some actual wire sticking out instead of just the plastic. I just did it with my fingernails because they're so small. I didn't even need a wire stripper, but you could use one. And then you just, solder these wires to the Raspberry Pi Pico. It's pretty simple. So once we get these wires soldered to the Pico, we're gonna solder those wires to the Xbox 360 NAND points. And that diagram in the beginning is gonna help me solder the right wires to the right places. And I was also cleaning up the points on the motherboard of the Xbox. In the first couple seconds of the video, that's what I was doing with the Q-tip. I was using 91%, or actually probably more than that, 99% or 91% isopropyl alcohol, just to clean up some of the dust on those points so the solder will stick better. And the Raspberry Pi Pico, those pads that I'm soldering to are gold. I'm pretty sure they're gold, or maybe they're brass, I don't know, but solder sticks to them pretty easily. And I was having trouble soldering, but that's because my solder tip was coated in some sort of oxidation, which I filed off, and that was helping me later on. So I switched hands here so I can hold the wire with my left hand and the soldering iron with my right hand. You just melt the solder and stick the wire to it. It's pretty simple. It would have been easier had I cleaned my soldering iron tip, but it still worked. Okay, that's the first one done. I just checked to make sure it's solid on there. And now I'm gonna speed up the rest of them. Alright, here we go. It's a little bit faster. Now it will be less boring. And I'm gonna get my trumpet. And I'm going to play some music until I'm done soldering these wires. Let me go to the A section. I can't remember how the bridge goes for that song. I don't have the biggest capacity for memorizing music in comparison to some people. I was trying to play Body and Soul, and I know the A section pretty good, but the B section is not to my memory yet. Maybe it never will be, I don't know. If you're still listening to this, why? No, I'm just kidding. That's cruel. I feel like this video is super long. Okay. This looks like the last wire that I'm soldering to the Raspberry Pi Pico. This is a very thin wire as well. So that's all 7 of them, all different colors, just so I could, and here I'm checking them to make sure they're solidly connected to the Pico, just shaking them and pulling. And they're different colors in order for me to keep them organized. That's the back side of the Pico there. It's just a tiny little computer. All right, there it is. And now here's the motherboard to the Xbox 360. And that chip right there, this says Xbox 360 Microsoft on it. That is the NAND chip. So it holds memory. It holds things on it without needing to be powered. So it's like a hard drive essentially. But these are the points right here that we're going to be soldering the ends of those wires to. And I'm just using a toothbrush to help clean up there a little bit. And I was having a really hard time doing this, and it was all because my soldering iron was not clean. So the next 6 minutes I'm about to cut it out because it's just me trying over and over again and failing. And I'm gonna cut to when I'm succeeding. All right, and we got a better view here. So we've got the yellow wire soldered in already. And what I did before I soldered this in is I tinned those points. You see how there's already a ball of solder there before I try to attach the wire? You need to do that. You gotta have something to attach the wire to. So before you even try to attach the wires, you gotta put some solder. See how there's bubbles of solder on those points there? That's what I put beforehand. And you just clean it up with isopropyl alcohol, put some flux on there, and then heat up the solder and just drop it on there. You know, it's not too difficult. And now we just need to connect all the wires from the Raspberry Pi Pico to the right places. And this is the pink wire, it goes bottom left. And that's why I have there's like a document that I have that's telling me, it's a diagram, I should say. There we go, just shake it, make sure it's solid. And that's pretty much how you do it. It's pretty easy as long as your soldering iron is clean, because I was having a very hard time. And I had to like lay down and Google, why am I having such a hard time? And it was like, you need your soldering iron to be clean. So I actually filed it down with a number 9 file. And if you know about number 9, that's the number before 10. And if you knew that, you are probably, you probably speak English. I guess you knew what those numbers were, and then the orders that they're supposed to come in. But yeah, number 9 files are very fine. It's almost like sandpaper. It's like a nail file, but they're made out of steel, so they're not gonna just like fall apart like a nail file would. And a nail file is even probably like a number 7 or so. It's like rough. Number 9 is really fine, but I just use that file to file off the layer of crud on the tip of the soldering iron, and now it's the solder should stick to the tip of the soldering iron. So yeah, now it's like really easy. These wires you can see are being soldered in super quick. This isn't even sped up. I'm just like touch the thing to the thing and then the other thing to the thing, and it's connected. It's really going fast when you have a nice clean soldering iron. But yeah, just soldered in the wires in the right place based on where they're supposed to go. And there it is. Look at that. We've got our NAND connected to our Pico, baby. We are ready to dump it off of there, save it onto our computer, just in case anything messes up later, and then rewrite it to our own specifications.